You know how it is. It is. I hear you.
Yes, about 2 minutes.
Can we wait until
Suck the
6?
cells out.
Okay, great, thank you.
Right.
Good evening. We call this special budget hearing of the Savannah Chatham County Public School System to order. We'll first affirm that we have sent out ample notice. I will ask our board secretary, and we have. So, one of the many things that the board is entrusted to do is to establish the budget. And the way that we do our budget is very transparent and very open to comments from the public. Today, we will have a presentation on our budget, and I know we have at least one speaker to speak on the budget, and of course, our board members will have comments as well. So at this time, I will ask Paige to come forward.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
This is a meeting that allows for public input in connection with our budget for next school year. Staff is continuing to work on the budget, and the Budget Committee process is ongoing. There is a Budget Committee meeting scheduled for May 10th. In addition, relevant revenue information from the Assessor's Office is not yet available. Members of the public will be provided with an opportunity to provide input on a proposed budget at subsequent public hearings. We have prepared a presentation to provide general information about our budget and the budgeting process. I'm going to offer that presentation now for the benefit of our interested stakeholders and community members. We're holding this meeting tonight to promote the transparency and obtain community input on our budget process and priorities. I'd like everyone to visualize our budget as buckets of money. Each revenue stream has its bucket. The bucket structure holds the contents together in place for specific purposes. The general fund is our district's largest spending bucket. It funds district operations. The largest revenue source is local property taxes, and our largest cost in the general budget is salaries and benefits. Our local revenue funds cover items that may not be covered by the state monies. One of these is our art and music teachers, our athletic program, and our specialty programs. The state provides some funds for teacher salaries, some nursing services, CTAE programs, and about 32% of the general fund revenue comes from our state revenue. Our penny sales tax revenue provides funds for East Splosh, new facilities and additions. This is all part of our capital projects funds. State grants provide funds for CTAE. Federal grants provide funds for Title I programs. These are all part of our special revenue funds. The CARES Act money and the American Rescue Plan funds are also part of special revenue funds, which come from our federal grants. Internal service funds include our unemployment compensation, our workers' compensation, and the employee dental plan. This graph shows the different types of revenue source. Our largest revenue is local revenue, which makes up $343 million of this year's school budget. This graph shows that the general fund is our largest fund at $504 million. Our general fund expenditure by categories are shown on this slide. Salaries and benefits make up about 83% of our budget for this school year. I have also gone and divided out the different types of salaries and benefits. As you can see, the school salaries and benefits make up 67% of our budget. Those are coded directly to school sites by location in our data system. The salaries and benefits for other are people also at the school sites, but they are not coded directly to school sites, such as our campus police, our district counselor, psychologist, special ed, hospital homebound teachers, and all of the list at the bottom. I just wanted people to realize that even though they are not coded at school, that the majority of the salaries are part of the school and work at schools or at multiple schools, most of these people. Our strategic plan that goes through 2026, goal number 4, fiscal responsibility and resource stewardship. We are maintaining a transparent budget process that supports the district's strategic plan. Our 4 budget objectives are listed on this slide. Our fiscal year 2024 items of focus for next school year are enrollment and staffing stability, student learning loss impacts, state budget, employee compensation, continued financial stability, and East Splosh 4. An important thing tonight that we wanted to emphasize is we are trying to get the public's input on our next year's budget. We have a budget survey that is out there on our website. There's a link below. This survey will be open through April 30th, and the survey results will be published May 5th. Next, I'd like to ask for any input and comments and ask the public to let us know what is important to you on our budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we get started with our comments from the board, we do have one person that has signed up to speak about our budget process, and that's Ms. Beth Maggioroni. Good evening.
As we enter the budget creation and adoption process, it is exciting to observe many education stakeholders across Chatham County, from board members, the Literacy Task Force, parents, and taxpayers, aligning on the power of the science of reading as an avenue to improve the abysmal literacy proficiency scores of Savannah-Chatham County schools. The science of reading includes explicit instruction of foundational reading skills led by phonemic awareness, which is the ability to identify and manipulate individual sounds called phonemes in words. Under the banner of the science of reading, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania schools turned its literacy proficiency around. In the fall of 2016, the district implemented the science of reading using the program called Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling, referred to by the acronym LETRS, LETRS, a comprehensive program developed by two veteran literacy experts, Louisa Moats and Carol Tolman, both PhDs. The change was dramatic. By the following June, 88% of the district's kindergartners were reading at grade level, up from 46% when school started in September. That progress continued over the next several years. For the year 2019, Mississippi became a national leader in literacy because of the significant gains made by students. How, you ask? In the 2014-2015 school year, the state ensured all K-3 teachers were trained in the science of reading by using the same early literacy training that was used by Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, LETRS, or LETRS. What is the common denominator in these two powerful case studies? Not just the science of reading, but more importantly, the intensive early literacy training program called LETRS. Tonight, I want to conclude with a budget recommendation and a caution. The science of reading can be a broad term, and publishers, in the search of school system dollars, can use it loosely to make a sale. Beware of this bait and switch potential that leads with the new buzzword, the science of reading, but lacks the quality of the LETRS program as an example. Budget ROI is based on quality first and price second. Both case studies I have cited realize the fact that it was teacher training first that is the #1 variable in increasing reading proficiency. I highly recommend the budget to reflect the inclusion of LETRS training for all K-3 teachers, regardless of the price tag. I look forward to the opportunity that Savannah-Chatham County Schools has to be added to the list of case studies where literacy proficiency can be our strength and not our weakness. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I am going to just go around the horseshoe and let our board make any comments they would like, starting with Dr. Hall. Okay, this may be the shortest meeting ever. Michael? Okay.
Ladies first.
Ms. Grabowski?
Denise, you just say, you just pick somebody else and we'll just do this.
We need that speaker ball that was part of our
Right.
presentation, right, that we can just throw. Thank you, Ms. Cooley, for setting the stage for our budget process. I think that's an important part of the way in which we move forward and helping to communicate that to the community. So thank you for that. Thank you, Ms. Mastroni, for your comments, and look forward to hearing continuing input from our community and recommendations from our staff. That's it for me.
Anyone else?
I've stated at other meetings, I'd like to make sure that we pay all city-funded or county-funded, district-funded staff the $2,000 has been promised by the governor to our state-funded. I'd like to see options for different step increases or pay increases across the district to keep up at least with cost of living, if not a little bit of a stretch. Valuing all of our staff, our teachers, making sure that they know that we put them first. I'll keep pitching around. Maybe something else will come to me.
Okay. Michael?
I'll go ahead and go. With the salary and benefits of the others, that 16% of the total fund budget, general fund budget, that also includes all of cabinet and everybody else as well as in there. I know this might be a big ask, but you know I like to do that. Is there any way we can separate out these the positions that you listed and those other positions?
I'm gonna make sure of the question that you're asking. as far
The
as
positions
other
that y'all
salaries.
listed in there, is there a way to separate those out from the ones that aren't, like, don't have like cluster schools or whatnot? Is there a way to separate those positions?
That will take some time because it's a tedious process, and we have to go through basically each position and label it. But
Okay.
there's no simple way to do it. It's easy to do cabinet, but once we go past cabinet, then there are positions that may be central office positions that actually go out to the schools.
Gotcha. And to follow my fellow board member over here, definitely need to look at having a COLA that's equal to inflation, so that way our employees aren't getting less in their paycheck next year, next fiscal year as they were this year, just out of the basis of how much the dollar would go. Also, I would like, I know Mr. Ray's not here, but I would like to see, if at all possible, that our police department get on a law enforcement scale instead of a teacher scale or whatever the government scale that we're using for them, because they do a lot for our kids. They keep them safe, and they keep our property safe as well. And I know I don't have to say it, but you know how I feel about the rollback. I feel like we definitely need to do at least the rollback amount. There will be one. Prices are continuing to go up, and so we should be able to continue to do what we have been doing with the same amount of money that we have.
Thank you, Ms. Page, for that wonderful presentation. Thank you, Ms. Beth. I agree with you that reading is a very, very, very important, and we need to make sure that our kids have what they need to do so properly. I would like to echo what Mr. Michael has said. I want to make sure that our school police department have the funds that they need in this season. Safety, 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 safety is vitally important. I want to make sure they have what they need to do their jobs efficiently and without being burnt out, as well as our teachers. So I echo those sentiments. Thank you.
Mr. Kaczmar? Couldn't resist. Go ahead.
You called on me. I always like this meeting because we all have wish lists, but we don't know what our budget is, so we're kind of shooting darts in the dark until we actually get the digest numbers and the final budget. You know, do we have 30 million that we can spread around, or are we short 18? And we've been in both situations before. So everyone has identified board priorities over the last few years. I think we've identified the new reading plan as something most of the board is behind, including the training component that Ms. Mazzaroni mentioned, and comprehensive support for that process. But until we have the numbers, we can't really slice and dice our discretionary spending, which the presentation shows is remarkably small given the size of our budget. So just remember, though, all of the priorities we've all identified as a board over the last year in particular as we start going through the process. And there's always trade-offs, so we might have to get rid of some things or cut back on certain things that aren't working as well anymore, not just keep spending money on the existing budget.
Mr. Kowalski?
Since Mr. Johnson called on me out of order, I'm going to reserve my right to go last. No, I'm just kidding. I agree with Mr. Kaczmar that it's difficult to know where we are in relation to the millage until we know what those numbers look like. And also our literacy task force recommendations that we all heard last month. I know there were several board members who asked the staff for more details on the budget required for the implementation of these recommendations. Certainly looking forward to that. And also want to reiterate one of the other comments that we've had before, and I can't believe Mr. Catchmore didn't state this, about operations and maintenance of our buildings, making sure that we do have adequate funding in our budget to maintain these beautiful new schools that we are renovating and building, so that we can sustain that and not end up in situations where we're having to expend excess dollars because of lack of maintenance funds. It's not sexy, but it's really important. Thank you.
Dr. Hall?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Page, for your presentation. And I'd just like to reiterate the importance of our mandated budget. We do have a mandated budget which consists of salaries. It consists of testing, also audit fees and attorney fees, transportation and energy. Those are mandated costs that we always have to be considered with the budget. Then you go into your soft costs. So before we, I know there's a wish list out there of many things that we'd like to have, but this is mandated by the state that we must encompass these different positions, salaries, audit, attorney fees, testing, and so forth. So I just thought I'd reiterate on that point of the importance of understanding how a school budget operates. You have your mandated budget, then you have your soft budget. Thank you.
So, as we mentioned before, we do have a budget committee meeting at 9 o'clock on May 10th. One of the things I know we will be discussing in that meeting are board priorities, and I'm going to reiterate that board priorities, that's one of the things that the board is tasked with, is the budget. And the way that we do our budget, yes, we have to keep all of those things in mind, but we also have to establish what the major priorities are for that year. And we may have to make some tough decisions on what we cut. But I cannot emphasize enough that the reading task force and getting our kids on grade level by third grade is a mandate. And it is also a state mandate now because it is the law. So I'm looking forward to our budget discussions, and yes, we do want to hear from the public. So please contact your board representative and let them know what you want. And also let them know your ideas on how we get there. So, anyone else? You may.
Mr. Jackson and team, do we have an anticipation of when we'll get real numbers that we can start plugging in?
At the May 10th budget workshop, we're going to have some very, very, very preliminary numbers for you to look at. As you know, most of you that have been on the board, the problem is we could start with preliminary numbers, but until we get that digest, we really don't know which direction to go in. But with the preliminary numbers, we're going to have a list of the priorities that you all have mentioned that you wanted us to include in the budget, some that staff wanted us to include in the budget, from some priorities from the initiatives, some of the community groups, from the survey. We're going to try to include most of those in that presentation on May the 10th during the budget workshop. And another point, I'm not sure if there are any other town hall meetings upcoming, because this type of presentation meeting, we would try to do it during the town hall meetings and come to your communities and get some input. So if there are some town hall meetings coming up, please let us know, and we can come there and listen to your to people in your districts. So please let us know.
So what I'm hearing is by May 10, we'll have preliminary revenue guesstimates,
Yes, sir.
but you'll also have hard numbers on the expenditure side of things that we've
Yes.
talked about, the reading initiative, both the training and the materials,
Yes.
the salary adjustments, including the governor's adjustments.
Correct.
Some of the hard costs that we've all talked about, especially in our retreats, you'll have some real numbers there.
The expenditure side is easier to put a finger on. It's
Right.
just the revenue side, as
I
you
gotcha.
all familiar with. We just have to wait and see. But the expenditure side, we can pretty much calculate those.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Understanding that boots on the ground, our individual schools are where things happen, have we received input from our individual schools as to what they need?
We've received input from the principals, and we've also shared the survey with school staff as well.
Okay.
So we're
Wonderful.
capturing that, and we're taking a look at that too.
Wonderful. Thank you.
But we try to rely on the site leaders, the principals, because they know best.
Yes, they do. All right. Great. Okay, anyone else? Well, I will entertain hang on, let me make sure I did everything. We did, okay. Gosh, I couldn't even finish. Yeah, let's try that again. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. We're adjourned.